The night was darker than usual when Aryan reached the old village of Rygod. The road, flanked by towering trees that seemed to whisper secrets in the wind, led him to a place long forgotten by the modern world. He had come here on a dare to prove that the stories of the haunted mansion at the edge of the village were nothing but myths. Aryan swung his old backpack off his shoulder, the weight of his camera equipment pressing against him. The mansion, known among locals as the Widow's Lament, had stood silent for decades, its windows darkened and its walls cracked. But tonight, Aryan felt a pull, a strange feeling drawing him closer. A chill ran down his spine, but he brushed it off. The villagers had warned him, "Don't go near after sunset," whispered an old man at the tea shop. The widow still walks her halls, seeking what she lost. Aryan laughed nervously. Ghost stories were meant to scare children and thrill seekers like him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the mansion emerged out of the shadows, its silhouette jagged against the blood-red sky. The heavy wooden door creaked open as if inviting Aryan inside. He hesitated, then stepped forward, the floorboards groaning beneath his feet. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay. Faded portraits of stern-faced women lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow Aryan's every move. He clicked on his flashlight and began exploring room by room. Each step echoed through the cavernous halls, magnifying his solitude. Suddenly, a soft sobbing sound floated through the air. Aryan froze, heart pounding. The sound seemed to come from upstairs, where the floorboards were less stable. With trembling hands, he climbed the staircase, the sobbing growing louder with each step. At the top, a long corridor stretched into darkness. The sobbing led him to a small room at the end. The door was ajar, and inside, the faint light of a candle flickered. On the floor sat a woman, her back turned toward him, her dress tattered and stained. She rocked gently, whispering a mournful lullaby. Aryan swallowed hard and stepped inside. "Hello?" His voice was barely a whisper. The woman slowly turned her head, revealing hollow, tear-streaked eyes that glowed faintly in the candlelight. Her mouth opened in a silent scream as the temperature dropped sharply. The candle went out, plunging Aryan into darkness. The candle flickered out, and Aryan found himself swallowed by an oppressive darkness that seemed to press down on his chest, making every breath a struggle. Panic surged through him as he fumbled for his flashlight, his fingers trembling so badly that it took several agonizing seconds before the dim beam flickered to life. The room was empty. The woman with the glowing, hollow eyes was gone. Aryan's heart hammered in his chest as he scanned the corners of the small chamber. Everything was coated in thick dust, and the sparse furniture looked as ancient as the house itself. The only sign that something had been here recently was a faint scent of damp earth and decay. The candle, still smoldering in its holder, left a thin trail of smoke that curled upward into the darkness above. A chill breeze swept through the room, carrying a faint whisper. "You shouldn't be here," it breathed, so soft it could have been the wind or a warning. Aryan swallowed hard and took a step backward. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoed from the hallway behind him, like a heavy book falling to the floor. His flashlight wavered before steadying, and as he turned to investigate, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang. Trapped, he rattled the handle desperately. It wouldn't budge. A cold sweat broke out across his skin as the sobbing returned, louder this time, more urgent, more desperate. It wasn't coming from the room anymore. It was everywhere now, filling the house like a sorrowful symphony. Aryan's breath quickened. "Who's there?" He called into the darkness, his voice cracking. No answer, just the relentless crying. He pressed his ear to the door, searching for any clue. And then he heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, approaching from the other side. Heavy, dragging like something unwilling to move but forced to follow. Aryan spun away and sprinted toward the staircase, footsteps pounding behind him. He could feel the presence growing nearer, colder, clawing at his sanity. Reaching the bottom, he lunged at the front door. It too was locked tight, refusing to open under his frantic push and pull. Windows offered no escape, many shattered, others boarded up from decades of neglect. The house was a trap. A voice echoed from the walls, by turns soft, sinister, and enraged. "Stay with me forever." Aryan's flashlight flickered and died just as those words hissed through the air. Pitch black. Silence. He reached blindly for his phone to call for help. No signal. No way out. Sweat slicked his palms as the sobbing returned, louder than ever. And then it stopped. A cold breath brushed his neck. "Why do you run, brother?" Aryan froze, breath caught in his throat. The voice at his neck was icy cold, seeping into his skin like the touch of death itself. He couldn't see anything, but he could feel it, an oppressive, malevolent presence that wrapped around him like a shadow merging with the night. His heart thundered, but his limbs were frozen. The darkness was no longer empty. It was alive, watching, waiting. Who are you?" Aryan managed to whisper, voice trembling. The voice replied, almost amused. "I am the sorrow that haunts these walls, the pain sealed in broken promises and empty graves. I am the widow's lament." Memories started flooding Aryan's mind, fragments of stories he had heard before coming here. The widow, a woman betrayed by love and loss, trapped between worlds by her anguish and rage. Her spirit cursed the mansion, forever bound to its decaying bones, seeking someone to share her torment. "I can set you free," the voice continued, "or you can join me in the endless night." Aryan's flashlight flickered weakly back to life, casting a pale circle of light ahead. In it, the corridor no longer looked like a simple hallway, but stretched into something horrific and endless, the walls dripping with shadows that seemed to pulse and breathe. He took a slow step forward, heart pounding. The floorboards cracked beneath him, as if the house itself protested his movement. The sobbing was back, echoing from every corner, now worsened, desperate. Through the dim beam, Aryan caught a glimpse of a figure standing at the end of the hall. A woman in tattered white, her hair wild and tangled, eyes vacant but filled with torment. She raised a pale hand slowly. "Come," she whispered. Suddenly, the hallway tilted, walls closing in as if the house were squeezing tight around him. Aryan stumbled forward, breath ragged, mind clouded by dread and confusion. He tried to call out, to turn back, but his voice was swallowed by the darkness. The figure advanced, step by slow step. With every movement, the house shuddered and creaked violently, dust and debris falling like ash around him. Aryan felt icy tendrils wrap around his ankles, pulling him down. Panic surged. "Help me," he gasped, thrashing, but the hands of shadow were unyielding. The woman reached out, her fingers brushing his cheek with unnatural cold. "Stay with me," she said, voice soft but filled with terrible power. Aryan's eyes snapped open, but the world around him was unfamiliar. He lay on cold, damp stone beneath a ceiling draped in cobwebs, his breath shallow and ragged. The air was heavy with a scent of mildew and decay. He was no longer in the mansion's hallway, but in a dim underground chamber, illuminated only by faint, flickering torchlight embedded in cracked walls. The sobbing was distant now, softer, but it never ceased. Aryan struggled to sit up. His limbs were weak, unresponsive, as if drained of life. A voice echoed, reverberating through the chamber. "Welcome to my eternal prison," it said, carrying both sorrow and malice. The woman, the widow, appeared again, her spectral form more vivid than before, her eyes glowing with an unholy light. "You sought to expose me," she said, stepping forward. "But now, you are part of my story." Aryan's mind raced, searching for any escape. "What do you want from me?" he asked hoarsely. "To be heard, to be understood," she replied. "For decades, I've lingered here, trapped by grief, my soul shackled by betrayal. Only by sharing my pain can I be set free." Aryan's fear began to give way to pity. "Tell me your story," he said softly, his voice trembling. The widow's form flickered as memories unfolded around them like ghosts in the shadows. She was once a bride, betrayed by her husband who vanished the night of their wedding, leaving her heartbroken and abandoned. Her sorrow poisoned the house, her cries imprisoning souls who dared enter. "Release me," she whispered. "Break the curse." Aryan nodded slowly, understanding that the mansion's darkness was fueled by unanswered grief. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small, worn diary he had found in the mansion's library during his earlier exploration. It was the widow's journal, filled with her anguish and hope. Reading aloud from the final entry, Aryan spoke the words of forgiveness and peace. As the last word left his lips, the widow's form shimmered, her eyes softening. The sobbing ceased, replaced by a quiet calm. "Thank you," she whispered as she began to fade, the heavy darkness lifting. The chamber walls cracked and crumbled, sunlight pouring in from above. Aryan felt warmth flood his body, strength returning. He stood and moved toward the light, the mansion no longer a prison but a place of release. Outside, the village was waking, birds singing as if the world had healed. Aryan knew the story would live on not as a tale of horror, but of sorrow eased and spirits freed. The widow's lament was finally at rest.